Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you guys are having a great start to your morning. Happy Easter. Hopefully, you guys are having a great one so far. I wanted to talk about what is going on in the weather world today because we are going to have unfortunately, some impactful weather for your Easter Sunday. And I'm talking about severe weather, the threat for all hazards for portions of the South. I'm really talking about Louisiana, Mississippi, and even parts of Alabama. And then a lot of heavy rain is going to move in overnight. I don't want to bring the negative news to you guys on a Sunday morning, but I do want to keep you guys alert on what is happening for today. So we're going to talk about the entire lower 48 as a whole also as far as your Easter forecast. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if you guys got anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it. And it gives everybody else an opportunity to do so too. And, today is just as important as any other day to do so, it being Easter. So let's get going here because there's quite a few things to talk about, and we're going to narrow in on the severe weather threat first and foremost this morning and try to keep you guys alert on the most active part of the country as far as weather today. So we have a slight risk up, and this is including a large chunk of Louisiana. I feel like this is deja vu because I feel like we just talked about this yesterday morning along the same areas, but kind of the same areas have been under the gun the last several days, and it will continue to be the case today. We got a slight risk, that's level 2 out of 5. This is including a large area of Louisiana and the entire southern half of Mississippi, including Jackson, Mississippi, and also southwest Alabama, Mobile, Alabama. I swear I just repeated the same information 24 hours ago. It's pretty crazy, but I'm a little more concerned about this severe weather threat today. And the real reason being is because, one, you have a 5% risk of a tornado of 25 miles in any given location in these areas of Louisiana and Mississippi right here. And then you got the damaging wind threat, okay, 15% risk in this yellow area, 25 miles in any given point. And then you got a hail threat, and then you have a hatched hail threat. Hail has been a big deal over the last 3 days or so in this area of the country. A lot of it's been further north in Arkansas, but it's a little further south today. So supercells are going to develop in this region. So you're going to have large hail. It's going to be a concern. You got a hatched area inside this 15% risk of larger hail in 25 miles at any given point. And the hatch area means you have a 10% or greater probability of 2-inch diameter hail, or larger in 25 miles at any given point. So you can have some larger hail with these storms today. So let's go on and just take a closer look at this setup here. And as we're getting into the later morning hours, you already have a cluster of storms. In fact, you look at radar scope in this area right now, you have a pretty intense storm, a severe warning storm as of y'all's time out in y'all's region, 8:17 a.m. y'all's time in Mississippi. So just north of Jackson, Mississippi, already some convection, some storms firing up, and a severe warning storm that's probably producing a little bit of hail already this morning. So it's definitely active already this morning. So we'll keep it going through about midday, and you already have some pretty intense storms starting to knock on the door of Montgomery, Alabama as we're getting close to lunchtime. And then you got a lot of other clusters of storms in Mississippi and Alabama. South of Birmingham looks to be the worst of the storms. And then, just north of Jackson, Mississippi, already some storms. And then you have a cluster of storms beginning to develop at the Louisiana, Texas, and Arkansas borders here, and they will continue to drift. And this is when it gets intense as you're getting into about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And these storms right here in these areas, and I'm sorry I'm using a smaller version. I had to look at weathermodels.com this morning because my weather bell was not working good for me. So I know this is a little smaller on the screen, but I'm about to zoom in here in a second here on Mississippi and surrounding areas. So bear with me. But look at these intense storms. These have the chance to produce large hail and a quick tornado. You have a prime environment south of these storms that are going to be feeding into these storms, and high-end dew points, surface dew points reaching, the 60s to close to 70. You got convective Kate values reaching at the surface, at around 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram. Mixed layer Kate 1,500 to 2,500. I know those are just numbers to a lot of folks as I'm talking, but just think of that as a lot of juice to these storms to fire off of. So there's not much kinematics in place, much winds aloft to really spin this, but you got so many other dynamics in place, and I'm really concerned about these storms right here. But you keep this going. Check out the storms down here also. They're lacking a little bit in the dynamics as a whole. especially the kinematics, but you're still going to have a threat for heavy rain and large hail, even in southern Alabama as you get later in the afternoon, in the panhandle of Florida also. But these storms right here I'm really concerned about, between Shreveport and Jackson, Mississippi. I'm really concerned about these, but they will very quickly kind of congeal into a boat out segment of storms a little bit later this afternoon and evening, and really become a damaging wind threat and also still a hail threat. But let's go on and take a closer look at these storms a little bit later this afternoon for Mississippi. You're getting into about midday. You already have clusters of storms. These will probably be elevated at first, but you get into the afternoon hours, and this cell, for example, has been showing up geographically in different areas, but generally in the same area as a whole. And I'm really worried about these clusters of storms moving into Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana. Watch out to Jackson, Mississippi. You're getting into about the 4 to 5 p.m. time frame here. And I'm telling you, I really think one of these are going to produce a quick tornado and really disrupt somebody's Easter Sunday. And I hope it's not the case. But normally when you have these high cape, high moisture type environments with you're always going to have a sloppy setup when you have a high-end moisture in these areas. But in general, I feel like there's a lot of energy for these storms to funnel in from the south. So I'm really concerned about these storms right here in eastern areas of Louisiana, in eastern areas of Mississippi and southwest areas of Mississippi, and then in northern to northeast areas of Louisiana. I'm really concerned about these storms. These can be severe also in southern Alabama and the western areas of the panhandle of Florida. But these are the ones that I really think can produce the large hail, and I really think has the chance to produce a quick tornado. That's why there is a 5% risk in this region right here. So watch out, Jackson, Mississippi. Points west, really. But anywhere in this area, I'm really concerned about some nasty storms this evening. I really am. Moving forward here, this could turn into a damaging wind threat, and then even Memphis. Watch out a little bit later this evening. Some nasty weather can move into your area. So we look at this as a whole, and we need to talk about what's kind of going into this environment right here. Well, you got plenty of cape rising into this area. This is surface-based cape. Not always the best thing to look at. We really like to look at the mixed layer cape also, but you have all kinds of different aloft cape you can look at the different areas of the atmosphere. But you see this cape building into this region, reaching, around on average, 3,000 joules per kilogram here in this region right here. Just think of that as some high-end energy for these storms to feed off of, between Baton Rouge, Jackson, Mississippi, to Shreveport, Louisiana, everywhere in between, and even other areas outside of those areas, especially to the east. You're going to have some energy for these storms to feed off of. So you got that. So we also look at the significant tornado parameter, and it begins to spike in those same areas that we just talked about where supercells can develop here in northern Louisiana, and then areas of eastern Mississippi, especially the southwest areas of Mississippi right here, just outside to the west of Jackson, Mississippi. I'm really concerned about this area right here today. In fact, I would not be surprised if this upgrades to an enhanced risk for a very small section here in the coming hours. So if that happens, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But this definitely concerns me. So please be weather aware across the deep south this afternoon and evening for your Easter. If you got any Easter egg hunts going on, please stay weather aware, please. But as far as the Eastern U.S. as a whole, excuse me, got a little bit of a congestion going on right now. As far as the Eastern U.S. as a whole, you have some troughing setting up. This is basically going to set the stage for what's going to probably be a late season interior big time snowstorm for areas of the Northeast. But this will move in throughout the day, throughout your Sunday, and will keep the temperatures pretty nippy across the Northeast as basically cold air is reinforced in this region. So you look as far as temperatures, as far as precipitation as a whole, what we're expecting today. Of course, we got the moisture down here. We've been talking about this and the storms that are going to fire up across the deep south. But we also got a system moving through the middle of the country. Missouri could definitely see some rain today if you're in the northern half of Missouri. Basically, all of Missouri could see some showers and storms today. And there's going to be some cold air nearby. You could see a little bit of snow in areas of Iowa. Almost the entire state of Iowa could see a rain change into snow kind of event. And then you have more snow in areas of Minnesota. and then areas of North Dakota as a system kind of pivots through this region and brings some moisture across the north central U.S. and the Midwest in general. And then as this cold front kind of rides through the Northeast, it fires up some almost convective in nature showers and snow showers, especially for the elevated areas here in the interior Northeast and interior New England over here. So you're going to have a snowy, especially if you're in higher elevations, a snowy Easter in the Northeast, and not really, the I-95 corridor like Boston and New York City, nothing like that, but definitely some heavy rain. This heavy rain starts to move into southern sections of Illinois, especially, and then, you're going to have some evening showers and storms in Kentucky and areas of Tennessee a little bit later, and then the heavy rain begins to move into Georgia and the Carolinas overnight tonight. As far as temperatures today, we go on and fast forward this into the hottest part of the day, and I really think it's going to be a nice day. In the Carolinas, for example, 70s to close to 80. Georgia, I think Florida will be roasting in the 80s and close to 90. South Georgia will be warm into the 80s. And then it'll be warm and humid across areas of the deep south where you're going to have a lot of moisture around. And then those storms are going to fire up. But you're going to have some rain-cooled air across the Midwest, including Missouri, especially eastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, eastern Nebraska. You're under influence with these clouds and this moisture in this area. Iowa, 40s and 30s, and then the 40s and 50s in the Ohio Valley states here. And the interior Northeast is going to be just quite chilly. It really is. There's going to be a boundary in the Mid-Atlantic somewhere. I think Washington, D.C. will be north of that boundary in Maryland, where you guys will probably be stuck in the 50s in general. But you don't have to drive far to see some warm temperatures down into Virginia, where depending on where you are in Virginia, if you're in the southern half, you're in the 60s and 70s, but the northern half might stay a little chilly. So we keep this going, and we look at the western U.S. It starts to quiet down somewhat for most of the day, a little bit some snow showers for areas of Montana. But in general, it stays relatively quiet. You got a system that starts to enter areas of the coastal regions of Washington State later tonight, but other than that, it's pretty quiet. As far as temperatures, what are we looking? Dang, I'm talking in slang here. What are we looking at for the western U.S.? We start to warm up. We really do. We start to get to more above average out west, and it starts to warm back up into the 80s and 90s. In the southwest, you're starting to warm up in the valley regions. It stays pretty chilly up here in the northern areas of the Rockies and the lower 48. But you got some heat starting to rise and get close to South Dakota, and then the 70s, and you got 60s and 70s in the plains and the western plains of Kansas and Nebraska, and then eastern Colorado. Some nice heating going on this region. It's going to be a nice day. Very dry. Fire risk is still up for these areas, but areas of the valley towns of Oregon and Washington State, you guys are starting to warm back up into the 50s. Nevada looks nice. So hope you guys have a great Easter. Hope you guys are getting up and heading to church and glorifying Jesus on this awesome Easter Sunday. So it's a very important day. But God bless all y'all. Have you an Easter update this evening on what it looks like going forward. And it looks like we do have some things to talk about with this nor'eastern that's probably going to affect a lot of people, even outside the areas that see snow. So God bless all y'all. Have an awesome Easter, and I'll talk to you guys soon.